Hello, hello, and welcome to the show. Hello, 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 and welcome to the show.
So let's have fun.
Dear God in heaven, please let this show go okay, with no major boobs or goofs, or is it goofs? Please don't let me tread all over the intros of records, or say a naughty word.
Now, for those of you watching in black and white, this one is in Technicolor.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Cookie Show.
We'd like to say that, in our opinion, it is not suitable for children or for those of you who may have a nervous disposition.
Good people, it is my pleasure to present to you the one and only...
And a very good evening. Welcome along, Target Radio here. Yeah, it's the start of a brand new working week. For me, anyway. How's you? Are you back at work now? I hope so. Honestly, you've had too much time off. Go on. Get back to work. How was your Monday, anyway? Really? That bad? My goodness me, you just had 2 weeks off and then you're moaning about your Monday. Well, hopefully here at Target Radio, we'll wipe those Monday blues away. We've got special guests. Yes, I used the word guests. That's a plural of one. So that means there's more than one. I've got two. Well, one and a bit. Because Andy Topwalker is not really a special guest anymore. He's more of a... We just can't get rid of him. He stays here now. Honestly, he sleeps on the floor. Nikki's not too happy. Or is she? Do you know, they've moved 3 times and they've still got the same milkman. The last time they moved, they were in Scotland. Work that one out. Anyway, I digress. We do have Sam Qureshi. I will get the proper pronunciation of his surname very, very soon. But we've got plenty to talk about tonight. The history of mod. Find out where that all came from. As if you didn't already know. But Sam's got some ideas on music anyway. And we're going to introduce you to his Pele's Groove. If you've not heard it, we're going to have a fantastic competition on how you can win a rare circular piece of vinyl. Yeah, those ones with the holes in the middles, kids. And if you turn it over, you get have another song. Actually, I've not checked, actually. I will check with Sam while we go into our first song. Hopefully it's not a repeat of the same one on the other side. You get that sometimes, I can tell you. Anyway, you can get hold of us on Facebook. That's Target Radio Live with Cookie. On Target Radio as well. On Facebook. Also on social media, Twitter, at Target Radio 247. We're on Instagram, if I can ever work out how to bloody use it. And other things as well. You might even get me on the phone if you're lucky. Okay. One format I will never, ever, ever change is I'll always start off with something from The Who, Pinball Wizard, and it's live here on Target Radio. What's going on in here at the moment? If you are tuned into Target Radio Live on the Facebook, you'll notice that we are on Facebook Live. Shh, don't tell Facebook, otherwise they'll kick me off. Yeah, we're going to play some sexy jazz sounds this evening. And the reason why, we've got the equally sexy... See what I've done there, Sam? 2 S's sexy. Yeah, okay. That window. I went completely out the window. Okay, enough of me. Let's bring on Sam then. Hi, Sam. How are you?
All right, Cookie. Nice to be on your show, man.
Indeed. Get a little bit closer to the microphone. Don't be shy. It doesn't bite.
No.
Can we hear you?
Can you hear me?
There we are. He's there. So, you've come all the way from Manchester today to be with us in our little old show?
Oh, a groovy little shed.
The man cave.
I feel like a gnome.
Got no gnome to go to. Enough of the silliness. Right, okay, so we've got Sam. Now, how are we pronouncing your surname? Is it Qureshi?
With great difficulty.
I am.
I've been trying to work it out for 55 years. Anyway, I think it's Qureshi.
Qureshi. Okay, lovely. And where's the name actually come from? Where is it derived from?
It's Arabic, I believe.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's derivative of the Quran, actually.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so... But it's been Brummy now. It's a Brummy Qureshi. I don't think they say it like that in the Arab states.
No, I think you get arrested if you said it like that anyway. So, originally then born where?
Originally born in Pakistan.
Okay.
And I came over here as a 9-month-old baby.
Oh.
In my mummy's arms.
Oh.
And I've been here ever since.
That's it. Didn't want to go. Didn't want to go.
The what?
Didn't want to go.
No.
You wanted to stay.
I wanted to stay.
Indeed. And where did you grow up? Was it in what part of England?
Initially, we were in London when I was like an infant, and
Okay.
I've actually still got memories of that. Funnily enough,
But you haven't got the accent, so that's
No.
where I'm getting to on this one.
and then we vanished to Birmingham,
Birmingham.
the land of Brummagem, and I've spent most of my life there, apart from the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Which I'm now a Mancunian, although I don't sound like one.
You're working on the accent, though.
20 years it's taken me to get this far.
That's it. And you've got sort of
They're all talking like me over there.
Well, it is all about you as well. And, Nicky J. Top Walkers has come on and just said, hello, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Okay. So, brought up in Birmingham, then moved. Why the move then to Manchester?
A long story.
We've
Maybe.
got 2 hours.
Well, it was a woman. Let's just say it was a woman.
It always is. He is. Well done, Andy. There he is. Andy's there with his line of questioning as well. Yes, it's always a woman, isn't it?
Well, that was the
Did
one.
she chase you or did you chase her?
I ran.
You ran?
Yeah,
So far.
that's it.
And you've done a Forrest Gump and then stopped when you got to your destination.
Which is the city of Manchester.
And stayed there ever since. How is Manchester?
Groovy as ever, man. It's live music scene is fantastic.
Brilliant. Now, we were talking, obviously, in the car and everything. We was talking about different areas and stuff. And I'm from London originally, and obviously from Carnaby Street, where a lot of the fashions and everything sort of landed and then sort of like scooted out, really, didn't it? But we were talking about different areas. Now, obviously, Manchester, where you are now, is sort of like your land of your... well, you tell us, what do you think Manchester is famous for?
I would say the indie scene.
Yeah,
right now.
indeed.
And the hacienda and the football.
Football, indeed. Yeah, they're so greedy. Got 2 teams there, haven't they?
Uh-huh.
Well, mind you, London's got plenty more as well. I'm not going to try and do a comparison this evening. No problems at all. So, with the music scene, obviously, there, when did you actually start getting into music?
Oh, that was Birmingham days.
Ah, right. So back to Birmingham then.
Very multiracial Birmingham days.
Indeed. Now, Birmingham's famous music-wise in your sort of estimation of what?
Reggae.
Yes. Love reggae. Now, is there a famous band in Birmingham that came out of Birmingham? I'm trying to think now. I'm racking my... Andy, do you know of any? No. He's musically challenged sometimes, young Andy. See, he's not as old as me. I'm trying to think now. Birmingham. Oh, right, okay. Did Duran come out? No, that's not music. Mind you, some Duran fans want to now kill me. Now I've just said that, but they're all right. But another musical band. Now, what were they? Oh, right. I'm just trying to think. I'm going to be unemployed before we get there. He's got it. UB40, indeed. Now, you've got a little story that you'd like to share, I think.
Well, that's what started me off in music. I was only a kid.
Yeah.
And I used to, as young kids, hang about in little gangs, misspent youth.
Yes.
And get myself in little bits of bother every now and then.
And why not?
And being from an Asian background.
Well, it's important to do that, though.
In the early, mid-70s, living in a predominantly white area of Birmingham, I often fell into a bit of trouble because of the colour of my skin, and I was getting set about in a pub. I shouldn't have been in the pub, actually. So, and I was getting set about by some National Front, and to my rescue came a group of lads, mixed race origins.
Yeah.
White, black, whatever.
Green in the middle.
That was it. And we had a little dust up with them, and they turned out to be a young UB40.
Wow.
and they said, "Oh, come to the studio with us. We're a band and all that." I was only 12. And they were about 6-7 years older than me.
Yeah, yeah.
And my relationship began with them.
That's fantastic. So, did you play with them?
I didn't actually play with them. I jammed with them.
Jam with them.
And they wanted to get me. I mean, I recorded in their studio. Ali Campbell, he played in Depp Studios, the famous Depp Studios, of all the hits for an album for me. I'd gone on tour with them as the Jazz Exorcist, supporting Groove Rider and Fabio when they were doing raves around Europe before their shows.
Yeah, yeah.
But they were the ones who were saying, "Come on, play an instrument, learn to play an instrument." When I was just 12,
yeah.
I used to wag school everywhere.
Okay, for terminology of wag is skipping school or play a truant. I'm just obviously getting my translator in there. Another personal joke with us as the Southerners, and obviously anything north of Watford is Northerners.
So I found myself like at gigs in London when I should have been in an English class in Birmingham, basically. And,
but your English is okay.
It's
so it didn't hurt.
I'm struggling with English, actually, because it's Brummy, so I don't know whether people can actually understand me very well.
No, we can. And what the little cryptic message is: stay in school, kids.
That's the one.
That's
the
it.
One. Don't be a Sam.
No, don't be a Sam. Not yet, anyway. Sam, I am. Apparently, they made a book after you as well.
Did they?
They did, yeah. That's for another day, though. So, so you went to different places with UB40, and one of the famous ones was on Top of the Pops, I believe.
I went to the first two Top of the Pops. Actually, I locked them out their dressing room. And they went on the first in their scruffy clothes because I'd wandered out to London.
Yeah.
I wound up 3 days later back in Birmingham. But I went first to Top of the Pops with them, and they wanted me on stage with them, but I said no, I don't want to be seen.
No, in case your English teacher's watching. Do you remember your English teacher's name?
Oh, she was gorgeous.
Yeah. Oh, here it is.
I'm sure she was in love with me.
Oh, I'm sure she was as well. Right, let's stop and have a little bit of music from an unsigned band, and we're going to get on with a little bit more with Sam Qureshi. Sam, anyway, now. It's Sam. We're going to just call him Sam. Okay, so stay in kids' school. Stay in school, kids. That's Sam's message. But if you're not and you want to tune into Target Radio, you're more than welcome. We love your company. Okay. Oh, hello. There's a bit of a Latin jazz going on in the background there. Yes. Okay, so with us today, we've got Sam. And Sam, you've got a tune that's coming out very soon on vinyl. We're going to get to that shortly. But let's find out a little bit more about you first and foremost, if I may, please. So, obviously, you've met up with UB40. They saved your skin in a little rumpus. Then you end up travelling with them all the way around the sort of, well, should we say London at least, and you ended up going to two Top of the Pops sort of, were they on a Wednesday night, weren't they, I believe?
I can't remember,
I think they were. I think they were shot on a Wednesday, then played out on a Thursday evening, so it was still quite fresh, if memory serves anyway. But now, you weren't going to play with UB40 because obviously, A, you didn't want to get seen by school teachers live on TV, but most importantly, you didn't know how to play an instrument at the time. Is that right?
No, they were trying to work out an instrument for me, and they used to let me play their instruments, and Ali let me a guitar for a few weeks. I was just terrible at it, and then Brian said, "Come and blow on this," and that was it. As soon as I blew on the saxophone,
I'm pleased you put the word saxophone in there. We are a family run show here. Andy's laughing there. That's okay. It's fine. That's it. Shall we recover and put another song on? No, I'm joking. So you started blowing on the saxophone.
That was it.
And you got it straight away.
I got it straight away, and then
it's not an easy instrument, is it?
It was natural for me when I actually blew it. I was really surprised. Everybody in the room was surprised.
Wow.
So, and the next thing I know, obviously they just had a load of money and they were just like charting it. And Brian's taken me to the music shop Yardley's in Birmingham Snowell at the time and bought me a saxophone.
Fantastic. And you got your first saxophone bought and paid for?
Yep.
Go on, give him another little thank you then.
Oh, well, what can I say? It's I haven't looked back since that day, and I had no musical pedigree before that or any intention. So Wow, and that was me on the saxophone.
And what sort of time period was that then when you first got your first saxophone? For free?
Around 1980.
Wow, so just in the right time as far as I'm concerned, where music was just finishing off the punk rock, really. And I suppose in 1979, 1980, we were going so many different sort of like avenues of music at the time, weren't we, as well? And it was going 100 miles an hour.
It was a real mishmash. It was a real mishmash of styles.
But a good mishmash as well, because it was something for everyone there, wasn't there, really?
Yeah, like you say, the punk scene was absolutely rampant, and I enjoyed that. I saw a lot of those punk bands back in the day, and it was electric, the atmosphere.
Brilliant. And just before you go on there, just a quick little mention and a nice little nod there to Steve Tufty Carver for yesterday's live punk rock show that started at 4 o'clock, and it was so good that we actually went an extra half an hour on the show yesterday. So my apologies for anyone that tuned in an hour later to hear their favourite shows and found out they were half an hour late, but never mind. Carry on, sorry, Sam.
Well, that punk energy was really empathy with the aggression of the multiracial society at the time as well. There was a lot of fighting going on between left wing and right wing, so there was a real political tint to the music of the punk and the reggae, and music is about a message. Let's not forget that it really is about telling the public about world issues.
Indeed, yeah. I mean, obviously it's subliminal. Some music can be that way, can't it? I mean, obviously, from your perspective, did you play music for people, or did you play music for yourself?
Well, the idea for me was to get a message across, because the two-tone movement at that time was about rock against racism, and obviously the two-tone meaning, two-tone, two colours. So for me, there was a political ideology in music.
Indeed. I think what with two-tone, the message was quite simple, that we should get on with everyone, despite their colour, creed, or whatever, really. I think that was not a really hidden message either, really, was it?
No, and people forget that was true of the punk scene as well. People actually forget that.
Yeah.
And I think we've sort of lost our way politically with regards to music these days.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think with the, go back to the sort of like the likes of the Sex Pistols, we use them quite often because they're probably the notorious and most famous of most of the punk groups out there. I would say not the best punk group out there, personally, from my own perspective, but they were absolutely up and down. They were angry, but they weren't angry at people. They were angry at the way the country was at the time. So they weren't angry at a person or people. I think it was angry, and some people took the wrong message from that, I think.
Anarchy is the word.
That's the word.
I think, I don't know whether you saw the film The Great Rock and Roll Swindle, about Malcolm McLaren's involvement with the Sex Pistols, but what an awesome movie that was. It really was a very, very powerful portrait of the anarchy at the time, and the way that the Pistols really worked that anarchy.
Yeah. And they worked it so well as well. Sorry about that. I'm having a conversation with my 11-year-old to get teas and coffees in the studio as well. And we're talking about something as great as the Sex Pistols back in the sort of like mid to late 70s as well. So who said men can't do two things at once, eh? No one. Okay, right. Okay, there we go. Brilliant. Right, okay, we're going to stop it there whilst we're trying to get the tea and coffee orders in. And we've got biscuits and cakes, by the way, as well, guys. Hey, we're being looked after today. Let's do this one by the Stranglers. This was called Peaches. Do you remember this?
Oh, I love this tune.
I'm pleased you like it, because I ain't got time to change it. Now, he's sitting there drinking all the coffee. He's eating all the Christmas cake. I think all the Christmas cake's now gone. And how was the Christmas cake?
Sex, drugs, and
rock and roll.
And Christmas cake.
Brilliant stuff. And Pete Meadows has been on. He just says, let him have it, Sam. So you are, aren't you? You're going to let him have it?
I'm going to let him have it.
Well,
have it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you're going to give.
Having it?
Yeah, I'm going to have it in a minute.
Are you having it, Andy?
Yeah. And he's having it all the time. That's what keeps getting him into trouble. So, hang on. Let's put some jazz in the background there. Lovely, that's nice. Right, so we have got Sam with us this evening here on Target Radio, and we're talking about, obviously, the sort of start-up of, obviously, yourself in your career, your chosen career of blowing on the saxophone, really, in hindsight. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I see it as an extension to my own body. It's like a voice, really.
Yeah, indeed.
So, you can't shut me up.
No, only with Christmas cake. Come back to the Christmas cake. So, how did you learn to play the saxophone? Did you go to lessons, or did you sort of self-taught, or?
I did it exactly how my friends did you before. I taught myself. I went to see a few teachers, and they were saying, "Oh, it's going to take you years to play with a band, and you've got to learn Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star and all this." And I was saying, "Well, I just want to play reggae. I want to play ska."
And why not?
So they refused to teach me. So unless I learnt all the classical bits, so I just sat in a room and just jammed along to songs and taught myself. So.
Brilliant. And I think somewhere along the line, I think a lot of the musicians back in the 60s, 70s, and indeed the early part of the 80s, I think they've all got very similar stories where they just sort of like you say, jammed along and learnt the chords, learnt the notes and everything else themselves.
It's the inner teacher.
Yeah,
it's yourself, because it's a soulful instrument. So I think I'm glad I avoided the notational work and the educational side of learning the instrument, because you really play from the heart.
Yeah,
and the more
and the lungs
and I just tell you the truth. I had some bad habits with alcohol and such at the time, and it was my escape from all that, so I just locked myself in a room for 3 years and just learnt the saxophone.
That is fantastic. That is real, being devoted to the instrument itself. How easy is it, or how hard is the instrument to play itself? I mean, obviously, you're a master. Would you say you're a master of the saxophone?
I'd never say I was a master.
No?
I'd never. I think you're always learning. Every time you learn something, you realise there's another 10 things you've got to learn.
Indeed, yeah.
You never. It's an infinite process. It really is. And I'd never call myself a master.
Well, competent with the instrument, then. Can we call it that?
I can hold my own.
Competent with the instrument. So how long, in your estimation, did it take you to get to that stage of being competent with it?
I'd say 5 years of maybe a solid 3 to 4 hours daily routine of practicing, and I'd make up my own exercise. I'd get we didn't have YouTube then. Like now, you've got tutorials and stuff.
Oh, you got everything now.
So I went from reggae to jazz because the brass instruments do lend themselves to jazz and funk and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I heard some guy playing jazz in a bar, and I thought, that's what I want to do. And then I'd listen to who are the masters, like John Coltrane, Charlie Parker, Joe Henderson, all the great Blue Note artists of the late 1950s, early 60s. Yeah. There's so many of them, and I just play along and study what they were doing.
That is brilliant. And we've got one of your artists now coming up here on Target Radio. Now, his name's Lou Donaldson. Can you tell us a little bit about Lou?
Oh, cool. He's an alto player from the US, from the 1940s, around there, and one of the Blue Note masters of what we call funk blues, really. And it's a different terminology to what it is now, but at the time, this was a funk blues.
Okay. And this one is called Midnight Creeper, I believe.
Yep.
Okay. Shall we have a little listen to this and educate ourselves in the...
This was also like the starts of mod jazz. This is the fundamentals of the mod music and the adoption by the mods. Mod jazz actually comes from modern jazz.
Yeah.
And so this is actually one of the fundamental tracks of the beginnings of mods.
Brilliant. Well, pin your luggles back out there in radio listening land and have a listen to this. This is Lou Donaldson and Midnight Creeper. And while we're playing this one, because it's about 3 minutes long, I think it's time to eat Christmas cake. Sam, before we started with Lou Donaldson, we found out you locked yourself away in a room for about 3, 4, or 5 years. Who let you out, and why did you come out? What did you do after that?
My mum let me out when she could hear I could play properly.
Brilliant.
And, I formed the Cavemen in Birmingham, jazz quartet, Hammond organ style, and we played all those mod tunes like you just heard, Lou Donaldson, Midnight Creeper, Alligator Boogaloo. We did Lee Morgan, the Sidewinder, all the tunes that the mods in the late 1950s to the early 1960s were listening to in London Soho clubs, basically.
Fantastic. That is brilliant. And did you really get a buzz out of that as well? I mean, because obviously, you know, for me, listening to live music, I mean, not playing it because obviously, you know, I can't play a note. I'd love to play an instrument, but at the moment I can't. But for me, going to live gigs, for me, is brilliant. I absolutely love the vibe. I love the just everything about live music is absolutely paramount for me. So what sort of buzz did you get from it?
Yeah, I mean, we developed a following, like, very quickly with the sound, and at the time that we were doing that in, like, the mid-'80s, early to mid-'80s, and going back to UB40, they opened a club called UB40s in Birmingham. We were the resident band. They were always there. They used to love our sound. They used to love the 1960s Hammond organ mod music, jazz style. And we were hammering places out just as an instrumental quartet, basically.
Okay.
And I think it was running parallel with the New Romantic movement, and there we were, working class Brummies, multicultural Brummies, playing this American jazz music.
Indeed.
And we actually got spotted by big promoters, and before I knew it, I was playing at Ronnie Scott's Jazz Club in London.
No way. How did that happen?
And well, we just got spotted playing by various promoters around Birmingham, and we were booked at. I got a phone call to say, "Oh, we're booking you at Ronnie Scott's," and I couldn't believe it.
I bet you couldn't.
Yeah, and that which was the fundamentals of the mod movement back in the day. So obviously we were all ecstatic, and then we went on to do gigs for Giles Peterson at Dingwalls. And the new jazz, Absolute Beginners was out, the David Bowie film, with Patsy Kensit, with the jazz angle on that. And,
that's it.
And you know, we were there in the middle of London, smashing it, absolutely smashing it.
And I'm going to ask you, on a side note there, just a slight silly question. Jazz hands, what's that all about?
I don't know.
You don't know. Just play jazz. Now, I mean, obviously, I've spoken to you before, and you don't follow the mod movement yourself personally or per se, but you do like the mod movement as well. So, how do you work that one?
Well, all music's a hybrid, so there's such a mishmash of the northern soul, the jazz, the mod. It's all, the common denominator is jazz chords, without getting too technical.
No.
So I'm sort of, I see myself as like a spiritual person, music spiritual, and where there's a vibe, that's where I am. So I'm a mod, and I'm not a mod.
I'm confused and still confused.
Everything that's got a groove in it that makes people dance, then that to me is mod music. The great Oscar Peterson, the pianist, the famous jazz pianist, was asked what music he likes and he doesn't like, what styles, and he answered, he said, look, there's only two types of music in the whole world, good or bad.
Well, our special guest this evening is Sam. Sam, how are you?
All right, they were cool, that man, weren't they?
Do you like them?
Yeah, I love rhythm and blues. R&B's got a different terminology these days, but that's original.
Indeed.
Rhythm and blues, Muddy Walters, etc.
Indeed. I think they go on to quote with loads of different sort of R&B groups and artists out there. But CJ's is lead singer with, obviously, the Regions, absolutely R&B all the way through.
Oh, yeah, and that's, again, it's another common denominator amongst all this music that we've got these days.
See, now, I've heard, contrary to what we were saying before we stopped and played from the band there, that all music come from R&B, but you're saying all music come from jazz?
Music, well, it comes from spiritual gospel.
Yeah.
It all derives from there in the 1920s, slave music. Mm. But then the first would have been blues. The first real sort of chord progression would have come out of modern day, would have been the blues. And then they say jazz is the baby of blues.
Yeah.
So I would say the blues would be the birth of the birthplace of popular music today.
Yeah. But we have got brilliant music. That's what I'm going to say. Right, okay, now talking about brilliant music, you've released something, okay, which for me got my attention pretty much, I think, around about September, October last year. And I first come across it via social media, Facebook, etc. And this, what we're talking about is Pele's Groove. And I'm going to obviously ask you where you got the name from, and obviously, Groove, obviously I've worked that one out myself. But Pele's Groove, what's Pele? Who is Pele? What is Pele?
Well, Pele is a very famous footballer in the 1960s and 70s.
Yeah.
The best footballer that ever lived.
Not Kevin Keegan, then?
Not quite.
No.
He was great. He was good.
I mean, Kevin Keegan's Groove doesn't have the same tone, does it really?
This guy was amazing. Obviously, he's world famous, historically famous. And,
yeah.
When Brazil inherited the Olympic Games a couple of years ago,
yeah,
somebody asked me to write a song for the games.
Oh, really?
So I love challenges. So Pele, being the most famous son of Brazil,
yeah,
came. So the title came about Pele's Groove, in a Latin rhythm. It's not necessarily a Brazilian rhythm, although there's some percussive overtones of Brazilian rhythms within the song. But
yeah.
It really is. It's a Latin fusion, really, of many flavours.
Okay, right. So Pele's Groove. Now, how is it then? Obviously, I don't mind football. Don't get me wrong. I don't mind a good game of football, etc. But how is it then that it's sort of like filtered into me? I've no idea. And not just me, but many other people on plenty of these mod sites, which obviously we are all part of. So, and it's got very much a mod feel to the whole, the whole song as well, Sam. So, how did that become like that?
As I said, because of the history of music, like you heard Lou Donaldson earlier, and the general, the chordal progressions in modern jazz music, it because Pele's Groove has those chords, those particular types of chords, it will automatically latch onto the music that the mods listen to. Even subconsciously, they won't recognise why that they're actually latching onto that.
And that really is so true, because it happened to me, and I think it happened to you as well, Andy, didn't it?
It did, absolutely.
Yeah. It just sort of, it just creeped up and bit you on the bottom, and it's brilliant.
Yeah, it's those subliminal grooves and roots of popular mod music that capture you, and you don't even realise it. So obviously the percussive overtones for the dancers. There's so many factors to the song, the fusion, the soul, northern soul population. They take on board on a different level. So it seemed to just popularise everyone together, exactly like the late 50s, early 60s, when everybody was like mishmashed together at Ronnie Scott's there in a small bar.
So we're going to talk about now.
Now?
Yeah, what we're going to talk about now was...
Now?
I want to find out a little bit more about the, not so much Pele's Groove, because we have explored that, but the other tracks on the EP, please.
I did 2 tracks I wrote a few years back, actually, and I got them scored out by a guy called Billy Magno in Brazil. Obviously, I've got quite a following in Brazil. I'm signed to a couple of labels out there.
Excellent.
And this guy was an amazing arranger, and he did an Antonio Carlos Jobim, who was one of the main inventors of bossa nova music. He did an arrangement in that style of 2 of my tracks. One was called The Secret Bossa Nova Club, and the other one is Song for Miriam, which is named after my mum. And they really are magnificent recordings. We recorded in a studio in Manchester, and you wouldn't believe it. You'd think it had come out of Rio de Janeiro, really. And
that place as well, yeah.
Yeah, and at that time, just prior to that recording, not too long before that actual recording, I had a manager, Bruce Replogle, who was the manager of John Lennon, actually, in the States in the late 70s. And he'd heard one of my tracks out there, and he put me in touch with this producer from Abbey Road who came and recorded the EP.
Wow, that is fantastic. Okay, so you had a couple of, shall we say, famous managers in in your career so far.
Yeah.
We're not going to mention what happened. No,
yeah.
don't mention that part, because it's very much a sore subject.
Morbid, yeah.
It is, yeah.
Joe Moss was looking after me for a number of years.
Yeah.
He was just mentoring me. He was the Smiths' original manager, and also Johnny Marr's manager, and he used to come to all my gigs, and he wanted to manage me, and he loved the jazz, and he knew the history of the mod movement. He knew that, and he wanted to bring it all back. He had a vision of it, and he'd turn up at my gigs, and people in Manchester, and people say, "Is that the great Joe Moss?"
Yeah.
He was still managing Johnny Marr. He passed away a few years ago.
Yes, indeed. Which was very sad.
Yeah,
very,
yeah.
very
I mean,
sad.
I miss him. He was such a figure to me, such a spearhead to me, and a great friend,
Yeah.
as well as a professional. And I really miss Joe Moss a lot. And he asked me to play at his wake, which I did. It was really sad. He was like, I really had to dig deep to play, because it was just such a sad time, really.
Indeed, yeah.
And
it's something you can't really, obviously with all your emotions all mixed up like that as well, you can't even sort of, you've got to use most of your breathing techniques and, the very breath in your body to make that instrument work. So you can't even sort of strum something together. You've really got to move your whole body
I had
into
to
that.
hold myself together.
Yeah.
And I played for Joe. I just thought of him. He's standing there, his spirit's there in front of me, and I got through. Johnny Marr actually introduced me onto stage at Night and Day in Manchester.
Yeah, and Johnny Marr obviously a firm favourite with obviously most of the mods out there, because obviously he's played quite a few times, as I was showing you, with the man himself, Mr. Weller.
Yeah.
So and I've showed you a couple of the videos that he's played with Weller, and a very brilliant guitarist in every right, really.
He's. I mean, Joe Moss, he was Johnny Marr's biggest fan.
Indeed. And a good singer-songwriter now as well, going with Johnny Marr. He's actually a very fine singer-songwriter as well, and I think he was a little bit overlooked when he was with the Smiths, personally, with Morrissey. Obviously very flamboyant, wasn't he, for Morrissey, to be honest?
Yeah, I mean, I do know some of their history, because Joe Moss used to tell me a few secrets that other people don't know, and I'm not going to divulge, 'cause I've been sworn to secrecy.
No,
as with the UB40 days, I've been sworn to secrecy.
Of course, yeah. I mean,
but
we don't want to talk about Gladiola.
But Joe Moss really, I mean, what he did with the Smiths and the indie scene, when record majors were saying this isn't going to sell one penny for us, and Joe Moss was into being challenged. He really was wanted to make them wrong and make the majors wrong. And what he did with the Smiths and the whole indie scene out of Manchester, he totally changed the music industry.
Yeah.
And he wanted to do the same with the jazz and the Latin, and he really wanted to bring back that beatnik subculture back from the days of the mods and from the days of the 1960s. And God bless him. Yeah.
Absolutely. He's just sharing a little insight to how Bossa Nova got from where it was in Brazil.
Yeah, it was in Brazil, discovered by Antonio Carlos Jobim and a couple of his associates.
You remembered his name?
And that wasn't the name that I was meant to remember. There's another name I've actually forgotten. And there was touring American musicians in Brazil. These are the names I've forgotten. But the guitar is Charlie something. Charlie. Anyway, he brought it back to America, to the big record companies, to say, hey, this is when jazz was like the mainstream music in the world. And they said, hey, there's this style from Brazil called Bossa Nova. And they brought these guys to New York. They brought them to the main stage there, and they recorded them, and they got the top American Charlie Rouse. I think it was Charlie Rouse. It might not be, but it was Charlie something anyway.
Well, I'm sure James Walsh knows, because he's very clever.
Stan Getz was the sax player, the German sax player that they used, and then obviously the most famous tune then came out was The Girl from Ipanema.
Yes.
Which became world famous, and I think it's the most sold song in history, apart from the Beatles' Yesterday, I believe.
I think you might be right, actually.
Astrid Gilberto was the singer on that, but that's the overview of there was an album called Jazz and Samba that just whacked straight at number one.
Yeah.
And then obviously Elvis and all them cats started to just jump on that bandwagon then. So.
Well, I think it's only right to do so, because obviously it was so good.
Yeah, oh yeah, it was a new craze. It was, and I think it's going to happen again on January the 31st at Bar 21 in Manchester.
And why not? Indeed, funny enough, you're going to be there that night as well.
Yeah, ironically,
that is so ironic.
It could be an alien double though. Be careful.
Indeed. If an alien comes up and starts chatting you up, then just totally ignore him, because it's not really Sam, okay? Because he's quite laid back. He just likes tucking into Christmas cake and listening to this song, which is The Humpback by Lou Donaldson. Is that right?
Here we go again.
There we
Back
go
to the
again.
history of the mods.
It's finished, Sam. You didn't tell me it's finished. That creeps up on you rather quickly, doesn't it?
I was getting intoxicated on Christmas cake.
Yes, there is a little bit of, should we say, the sauce in there. Sam's had one or the other. I'm not sure what was in that Christmas cake, but it's good stuff,
Milk,
Sam.
Milk.
It's definitely milk, definitely. Milk with the alcohol, indeed. Right, okay, so that's brought us nicely back to sort of like the early part of the 80s there with Dr. Feelgood. And we're going to move just 10 years ahead, and so we're going to sort of late 80s and into the early 90s. So what was you doing with yourself?
I was busking on the streets.
Wow.
Yeah, it's an education to learn your instrument in a very special way.
They say that, don't they? A lot of stars have been discovered just literally busking.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't in the 90s that I first came to Manchester, so I was out there on the streets and I was making all my contacts. I was getting offered gigs. I was meeting other musicians. I was making money. And it wasn't about the gigs or the money. It really is a way of learning your instrument that you never forget. The techniques that you learn when you're playing on the street. Anyone can go in the studio with a band and the best producers, and they can make them sound good. But when you're actually playing in the street, you've got to be good because the public tell you if you're not. And
they're cruel as well, aren't they?
They can be cruel, yeah. I mean, I've had the best part of 20 years busking on the streets, and I've learned so much. And okay, you can sell 1 million records and you get a high about your music and you're playing. But you know what? If you're playing and you're playing whatever comes into your head, because I've never planned what I play, and I must play 1,000 tunes: the Beatles, Oasis, reggae, ska. It doesn't matter what comes into my head. Love songs on the saxophone. It doesn't really matter what comes. I just start playing. And if someone's walking past and they stop, and I make them stop, and they come back to me and they say, you know what, you just cheered me up. Or there's a tear in their eye because I played something that reminded them of their past, and they put that money in that box. That is priceless.
Yeah.
That is wealth. That's musical wealth.
Yeah.
And I thought if I can carry whatever that magic is that does that and put it into my recordings, then I could really be successful as a musician.
Brilliant stuff, brilliant stuff. And obviously we're going to see you live, obviously, on your night patrol at the end of the month there. And just make sure we've got the dates right there. So that is on, where is it?
January the 31st.
You know, it doesn't say that on there.
January the 31st. Yeah, there was actually...
So that's a great...
We had we had to do the flyer about 5 times before we got it right. And honestly, nobody was drunk. But on a couple of the flyers, there's no date, actually. But anyway, you've got one without one of the dates.
I have actually got it now. There it is.
Right, yeah.
Just see it there.
And then, that's not the final one. There was a final one, and it clarified it. It's Thursday, January the 31st, at Bar 21 in the Manchester Northern Quarter, Thomas Street.
Yep.
And it goes from 8 p.m. till 1 a.m.
Wow. School night as well,
£5 admission, night patrol, and the great Pete Meadows just blending all those eclectic styles together, and it's going to be an awesome 1960s groovy fab night.
That's brilliant. Okay, now, talking to Manchester and obviously we're having a groovy night, there's another band that's come out of Manchester that was equally as groovy, I would say, in the late 80s and in the beginning of the early 90s, and obviously came to fame, I would say, in the Britpop era. We are talking about Oasis, and you said you covered a couple of the Oasis songs as well in your, in your repertoire of busking. Did you ever cover this one, Some Might Say?
I certainly did.
Live with Cookie, just to say hello and welcome to the 3.2 thousand people that have joined us there. That is fantastic. Right now, we were just having a little chit-chat about other things as well. And I'm just going to mention Jude Law. Okay, Sam, because apparently you are part of...
Hey, Jude.
Hey, Jude, I love that. Jude Law, an actor, fine actor, actually, and... apparently he starred in the remake of Alfie, and somehow you got swept into that. How did that happen?
Yeah, during my busking days there in the early 2000 period, I got spotted by scouts of Paramount Pictures in my pitch busking.
They get everywhere, them scouts. They come around the other day, asked me if they wanted to clean my car, and I said, yeah, that's fine. Then they wanted money.
I thought they were Boy Scouts first.
No, there's a couple of girls as well.
And they saw me busking there on St Anne's Square around Manchester, and they said that they were scouts of Paramount Pictures and that they were refilming Alfie in the streets of Manchester.
Not a lot of people know that.
They wanted me on the set. There you go. There I was then, the next day. Yesterday I used to play for a penny or two a song type, yeah. And there I was amongst all these stars and the paparazzi, and I was actually, the picture that the paparazzi took, I was actually on it for the front page of The Guardian about the remaking of Alfie in Manchester.
That is unbelievable. So it's definitely being in the right place at the right time, I suppose.
Well, I was just doing my thing, really.
You were just doing your busking?
Yeah, I was just doing what my soul needs to keep alive.
Yeah.
Like playing to people and real people, what I touched upon before. And, so there I was for 3 days with them on set. So
that is unbelievable. What a great story. And did you get paid handsomely for it?
Are the DHSS listening?
No, they've gone home now. That's after 5 o'clock. So
they just gave me a free meal.
That is great. Brilliant. And did they darn your socks as well?
We'd start, and I chatted to, I didn't, because I only got a television about 9 months ago. I didn't have a television for 20 years. I didn't know who was who. And every day this girl used to come up to me on set and ask me to play various tunes. She was into jazz, so she'd say, can you play this, can you play, and I'd play whatever tune that they wanted.
Yeah.
And I didn't know who she was, and she was quite a pretty girl, and she'd always be flirty with me. I thought, ooh. And I said to her, well, you're from America? She said, yeah. She said, I don't know much about Manchester. I said, well, can I show you around? She said, I'd love to. Anyway, she said the next day to call up to where her little room was.
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't bother. And she turned out to be the lead actress.
Oh.
Marissa Tomlin.
Oh,
wow. Turned out to be the lead actress, and I touched her. I didn't even know, so there you go.
There we go. So you got a free meal. They darned your socks. You've met a celebrity actress, and did they buy you a new suit?
Oh, they bought me a new suit.
That's brilliant. And Paul Weller's got a new suit. It's a peacock suit. Right, okay then. So we're here with Sam at the moment, and we're helping Sam promote. Not that he needs any help. Obviously, I just wanted to meet him because I'm so, drug on this Pele's Groove. It's absolutely fantastic. So you brought an EP with you today, which obviously has got 4 tracks on there. Go on, show it to all the fabulous fans out there. So Pele's Groove is out in a couple of weeks' time. Got a chance of winning one of these fine EPs. Now, I always thought an EP was a midway from the single, obviously, to the album. So it's a 12-inch, but you don't get as many songs on an EP. Is that right?
Yeah, it's 4 or 5. Generally.
4 or 5, generally, yes, indeed. Now, it's one step away from an album. Have you got an album in mind at the moment?
Yeah, I've already written it, and I'm hopefully recording it in April or May time. So.
Fantastic. And are you going to be sticking Pele's Groove on that?
No, I'll move on from that tune. I'll move on. I've got so many Latin rhythms that I'm sure the mods are going to go absolutely crazy about.
Brilliant. So you're going to try and sort of keep it sort of like the late 50s style.
Yeah, well, I just do my own vibe, really. I don't have any formulas when I write stuff.
Yeah.
So, but everything I do predominantly does fall into a late 50s, early 60s style. So,
yeah.
And as you know from leaving this studio, I'm staying overnight in London. And
well, good luck with that.
Yep. And tomorrow,
make sure you get a nice breakfast in the morning.
Tomorrow, I've got meetings with many record companies, so throughout London.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we're not going to tempt fate there, and obviously ask you to mention any of the record companies' names because we wouldn't do that. But is there anyone we should keep an eye out for? Any sorts of artists that we know of that have joined? Do you know of anyone that famous people, without dropping too many names there, you're going to meet a few of these people tomorrow that associate themselves with other people. Is there anyone that we may know
of? Brian Epstein.
Well, there we go. Say no more. Say no more. Right, the reason why I mentioned that is because I've been talking to Pete Milo. Now, you probably don't know who Pete Milo is at the moment, but he's just finishing up an album full of original songs in Nashville, recording at the Master Grooves studio. Now, have you heard of Master Grooves studio at all in Nashville?
I think I have, actually.
I think you have, because most people have. It's one of those sort of like places that it's so far away. In Nashville, you think country and western, or country music now, as they call it. Don't know, when did they get rid of western, by the way? No idea. Anyway, so he's been famed Grammy-winning record producer David Morse and David Santos, which is also Billy Joel's and Elton John's bass player, and famed drummer Joe Vitale, who's recorded and tours with Joe Walsh, the Eagles, Crosby, Stills and Nash, Peter Frampton. Both Joe and David are playing on this album, which Pete Milo is sending me very, very soon. So, he's looking to have a UK tour very soon, but he's asked me if I could play one of his tracks, which is called Mixed Up, Shook Up. So, we're here at Target Radio. It's all about playing the unsigned and sometimes the unknown musicians out there. So, let's have a little listen to this, and then we're going to get back to Sam as soon as this one's done. Right, with me now, moving on, and we've got a special guest in the studio. Last bit now for you, Sam. I know it's been a long haul for you. It's been a long day as well, coming all the way from Manchester on the choo-choo train. But you've got an early start tomorrow?
Yeah, early start.
So how many people you got to see tomorrow without naming too many names, or any names?
So far there's 4, but there's another few that want to see me, but I won't be able to fit them in tomorrow. So.
Sorry about that. If you aren't listening now, he sends his apologies, and we'll do it another day, yeah? Indeed. You know, you're going back home tomorrow night, aren't you?
That's the one.
That's the one. So good luck with that tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And obviously, Pele's Groove is climbing high in our charts anyway, because I love it. It's simplicity, but personally, I just love the video. It brings it together nicely, I think. So, I enjoyed the video. I enjoyed the song. Anything else left to mention?
You can buy it directly from me, Sam Qureshi, Facebook me, and I'll arrange to send you the vinyl copy. And they are going, this first 300 are going like hotcakes, believe me, they really
brilliant.
are.
How many have we got left, do you know?
I'm not sure.
Not many, though.
Not too many now.
Not too many. And you're personally signing them all?
I'm personally signing this first 300 batch and numbered, so that won't happen again.
No, that will never happen again. So, guys, girls, please get onto Sam's page on Facebook. Message him directly through Facebook Messenger.
Yep.
Or email him, whatever the case may be. Get hold of one of these rarities, because once they're gone, kids. And you won't get them again. So, shall we finish off with Pele's Groove one more time? Go on. I know you're going to say no, because you don't really want to listen to your own stuff, but we love it here at Target Radio.
Okay, nice.
But for now, I want to say, Sam, thanks ever so much indeed for making a great big journey down here. We really, really appreciate your time, and obviously good luck for tomorrow, my friend.
Cool.
Hopefully everything goes well and goes your way. And don't forget your friends when you're rich and famous.
Right, neither should you.
No, indeed. That's Andy and myself. That's
right.
That's the only 2 friends you need.
Thanks for having me at the Chicken Shack, man.
Hey, no worries at all. But now, though, let's all give him a nice big round of applause. Brilliant. The man behind Pele's Groove is Sam.